Okay, I'll call the meeting to order and we'll get started with our roll call. Marcus Creasy.
I am here.
All right, Chad Chester. Here. Dr. Hewitt. Here. Bruce Malik. Here. Dr. Pallone. Here. Dr. Throne. Tommy Wren. What about Tommy? Dan Wright. Not available. All right, I believe we have a quorum. Director Fisk. We'll move into considering the minutes from our October 20th and our November 3rd meeting. Find tab 1.
I move the minutes be approved as presented.
Motion been made by Senator Mallett to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second? Second by Chad Chester. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None observed. Moving into action item number 3, which will be to vote on the expenses for the commission for the 2024 year.
Each year, this will be the time of year that we'll vote on the stipend and expenses for the commission. What we're proposing is to continue on with the $50 stipend for attending each meeting, state employee allowance for meals and lodging, and the state employees allowance for private car mileage.
All right. We hear a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved by Dr. Hewitt. Here a second. Sarah, second by Dr. Throne. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None noted. All right, we'll move into agency reports. Find our tab 2 accounting. Have a new sir.
Mr. Zaki is now here. I'll present the financial report. We started this year with 13.7 million and ended with 13.9, which was a $200,000 increase. With the year ending at the 13.9 million cash in hand, the livestock poultry is in a really good position to go into our second half of the fiscal year. We also have included in your packet the financial legislative audits, which there was no findings for the department. So the department is good at this point.
Thank you, Patrick. Dr. Niles.
Thanks, Nick. Good morning, everybody. What a wonderful drive over here. Beautiful sunshiny day to the Spa City. It's an honor to be here. Give you a report on animal health from the division. The commissioners, you have a packet there with some notes on there. I'm gonna kind of hit some highlights and then y'all can ask me some questions and I've got some staff that can answer that for you. So, but it's good to see everybody. Honored to be here as your state veterinarian. But one of the things that we track continually is a veterinary medical loan repayment plan for students to attract them into Arkansas to practice food animal medicine in shortage areas. And so quick update there. I've given you a map, commissioners, that show 6 nominated areas for this season. This year, we nominate up to 6 every year. And it appears that they're going to be accepted. We had a few edits. I spoke with the foundation folks that were running that. So we've got 6 areas nominated. Those are highlighted in color. I've also put stars in there to show you where we had awards in 2022 and 2023. So all of those spots that are nominated this year originated out of conversations with practitioners in those areas. And so that has been the greatest rewards on getting somebody in those areas. There's also a companion grant that goes along with that, that the clinic they work at can apply for a grant to get them some equipment to service the food animal industry in those areas. So if no questions on that, we'll just trot on down the line there. Some of the things that we've been doing, some highlights, we did meet with Colombian Entourage. They're wanting to come into the United States and open up their export trade with us again on the poultry side. And so they sent several teams to the United States, and they wanted to talk to a state veterinarian, and somehow they picked me. So I think I did us proud to meet with them, but I was able to answer all their questions, and they were really glad to see us. Dr. Poulos was there helping me with that as well. So several of us met with them. Doing a lot of grant reports and writing. We helped, we worked on our veterinary committee. The Veterinary Medical Examining Board has changed, and there's now a committee that has done that. And so I worked with Kara and other members to get that committee up and running. It's running well. We've had our first meeting and it worked great. We just kind of ran it the way it has been doing under a committee name. We do have the largest growing commodity in the state is small animals, sheep and goats. And so I went to a leadership workshop on that. And so we're trying to get some more support for that industry as well. Emergency response. We got to respond this year in a kind of a larger way with avian influenza. We had 4 cases. Just to highlight that, we had 4 commercial entities in Madison, Carroll, and Johnson counties. And I've given you the numbers of the birds that were available in that. So we've progressed through that. All of those premises are in the restocking phase right now. We did have 1 backyard non-poultry premise. Those do not establish a control area, but they will be on a 120-day fallow period. So that's we worked our way through that. So I wanted to share the incident management team chart, the response chart, because if I start trying to tell you what wonderful job everybody did in there, I'll leave somebody out. But I put the whole incident management chart on there for you to see. Everybody from state and federal side responded in a magnificent way. With 4 commercial prims breaking within weeks of each other, it stretched us. And so we consumed our federal resources, and it was just amazing to watch our state personnel, our livestock inspectors step into federal rows and fill those slots as case managers and site managers. But it made it very easy for the incident commanders. That was myself as the state animal health official and our area veterinarian in charge. We were the co-commanders. It made our job very easy to run that incident management. So just a lot of people across that board. And I just wanted to give you the names of every one of those people that stepped up and did a wonderful job. And I don't want to leave anybody out, but it was just magnificent response in that. We are ramping up for other diseases other than high path avian influenza. We have a new field service. Does that mean I'm done? Did you cut me off? Oh, no, that wasn't my cue. We have a new field services veterinarian. The commission met him, but you guys have not met him, the Fair Board folks. Dr. Moffitt, Josh Moffitt joined us, and he was instrumental in checking animals at the state fair. So I got to go touch some animals myself as we were checking them in. So that was a good deal. I got head-butted by a goat, checking for ringworm, but that's part of the job, I guess. So it's good to have him on board. Update on trichomoniasis. We still have some cases in there. We have what we consider 3 active cases right now. One of them is a new herd. 2 of them are old, and one of those old cases is a rebreak. They tested the bulls after covering the cows, and we found some more positive. So that kind of resets their clock on their quarantine and working out of trichomoniasis. Vesicular stomatitis did not hit this year. 2 years ago, we had a deal with that, but it seems to be just keep on smoldering out in California with cases, new cases every week or so. Another disease that's on the radar is infectious lingual tracheitis. We have a committee that's working on that, but we have several open cases of that in the state. So there's a report from Animal Health. If y'all have any questions, comments, do my best to handle those.
Any questions for Dr. Niles?
Thank you, Dr. Niles.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving to egg and poultry. Ms. Sherry Ellis.
Good morning. I'm going to stand right here. Egg and poultry this quarter, we, in general activities, Butterball. Butterball is, currently shipping loads to Puerto Rico. Occasionally, our inspectors have to ship these from, freezer locations, and we have been doing that currently. Those have been going well. We did receive notification from USDA AMS of shell egg export restrictions. This is due to high path. So counties of Carroll County cannot, and Madison County cannot ship to Mexico and Japan at this time. We've received notification that Pete and Jerry Eggs has canceled grading services, but we've also received notification just this week that that is going to be taken over by another location or another owner. So we will have grading services back in there probably within the next month. So that is good for us. Mid-States Eggs in Berryville has signed a 5-year contract with Costco. So that is very good for us. That will lead into additional grading services on evening shift. So that will increase our services at that location. After many years of negotiations, Israel has assigned an official grant of U.S. markets with USDA. So they'll do some exports of eggs across the U.S. We don't currently have anything that we do with them, but that could lead to future exports. School lunch commodities, Waldron, OK Foods in Fort Smith, and George's out of Cassville have finished all their current contracts with USDA. They will rebid in March and have some additional commodity contracts with them. This quarter, we did one food defense audit. We will start again in January. We currently have about 16 audits for January scheduled. Child nutrition, we did 2 child nutrition audits this quarter. No UEP audits, United Egg Producers. Those will begin again between March and October. They did put out new guidelines for United Egg Producer audits. We did 2 cage-free verification audits this quarter. We have 6 scheduled with Happy Egg, but those have been put on hold due to the high path outbreak at their request. We did 3 contractor check loading verifications at freezer locations. We do those every quarter. And 1 label review at a freezer location. Shell egg surveillance, we did 10 quarterly processor visits this quarter. That was about comparable with every quarter. In production at the processors, we did 379 million pounds of chicken, 246 million pounds of turkey, and 1.2 million cases of shell eggs this quarter. We did not do any rabbit this quarter. They just didn't have anything to process. At retail inspections at the grocery stores, we did 538 retail locations and 77,000 dozen cartons and issued 1 warning for failure to meet labeling requirements. For outreach, we attended the National Egg Regulatory Officials Mid-Year Conference in October via Zoom. We attended the 2023 Poultry Federation Symposium and sponsored the NASDA inbound trip that they had this quarter. And that is all.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Sherry. Dr. Pula with our laboratory.
Good morning, y'all. I'd like to share a few highlights of the work that we did over the last quarter. As Dr. Niles mentioned, we saw a spike in avian influenza cases across the nation, and the laboratories, both here in Little Rock and in Fayetteville at University of Arkansas, worked under extremely stressful conditions and tested samples from 4 different control zones And I'm glad to say that all of the control zones have now been released. And UFA was recognized as our branch laboratory last year by National Animal Health Laboratory Network. So this year they came alongside with us and took the challenge of testing bulk of HiPath AI samples, over 5,000 samples in just a couple of months. And they did an extremely good job in performing this testing. Little Rock Laboratory is waiting to perform the test, post cleaning and disinfecting environmental testing. Moving on to trick testing, we noticed a significant increase in trick testing requests over the last quarter. We performed little over 300 tests in 2022, whereas we received over 1,200 tests in 2023. And we introduced a new method, which has been tremendously helpful. The cost of the test, the sample tube, the sample material incurred by veterinarians has gone down a lot tremendously. The shipping nature has changed a lot. The time it takes to perform the test has gone down a lot too. Previously, it used to take about 3 days, and now the turnaround is next day. We have been able to test and release the results just the next day. And the other test that we have been working on is chronic wasting disease. We have collaborated once again this year with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, and our numbers are pretty comparable to the last year. This year, we introduced a new cost-effective method, which has been tremendously helpful in reducing our turnaround times, and we are continuing to work with them. That's all I have.
Thank you,
Any
Dr.
questions
Kula.
for me?
Any questions for him? If not, we'll move into livestock field and market report from Blake.
You got it on? Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. Appreciate everybody. I have included some numbers in your packet. You're kind of starting to see these same reports, but just kind of give you a little rundown over what's going on in the markets the last quarter. Nothing really standing out. Obviously, the market has been doing pretty good, so the numbers have been pretty stout. But that's about normal for this time of year. So they're hanging in there. Probably actually the numbers were up just a little bit for December. They've actually been pretty good, which we had pretty decent weather. With the market the way it was, obviously we've had some people hanging on to stuff and finally to go. But I also included, as I did last time, the flea market report. Obviously, that's keeping an eye on a little bit as far as poultry, because we do have a couple flea markets that do move. I need to do something different. No idea, but I know everybody's probably tired of hearing me go in and out. But anyway, I'll let y'all look over that. If you have any questions, just get with me, but that's pretty straightforward. I did want to thank my personnel. Dr. Niles covered it a little bit, but I did want to thank everybody that helped out during the AI incursion and some other poultry production issues that's been going on. My field staff worked a lot of extra hours. Great job. As we have filled some roles that we have not filled in the past, but that's gone really well, and I'm really proud of my staff. That's kind of all I'll say about that. He covered that pretty well. For the commissioners, this is a little bit of a repeat, but I did want to cover a couple of things since we are here with the fair managers today. I do appreciate being here. And just wanted to cover a couple of things to put on your mind. A couple of these were actually brought up by fairs this year of some things they're wanting to work on, and I thought I might pass it along because it could help all of us out. But basically, and basically what it boils down to is a couple of the fairs are opening up their bylaws basically in their fair books, and they're wanting to update some regs. And so some of the animal stuff they're looking at. But one thing that has been an issue for all of us, and it's a battle, whether it be the state fair, local fairs, everything is the entry schedule. I know it's tough because you're trying to make it to where everybody can get there and all that, but we did have a couple issues pop up last year. One incident, actually, we actually got a pink eye heifer she was actually in the barn, and she did have a full infection going on, which was kind of a problem. But due to the entry schedule, and I'm not saying that would always eliminate that, that did allow for them to get her snuck in the night when we were doing health checks. So that just may be something you want to look at. If we could narrow those times, it definitely makes it easier. We're going to try to be there and try to help the best we can, but we can't, some of these schedules are left open for a long periods of time, and they can come in over about a 3-day period. And what we're seeing too is even for some of the livestock managers, that's making it pretty tough because they don't know when people's going to be there. And like I say, we want to help the kids. We want to help the parents. We know everybody's working full-time jobs, and you get home as can, throw everything in the trailer and try to get there. But that may be something y'all just want to consider, is maybe honing that in a little bit. That might be able to help y'all. And like I say, help us too, as far as making sure we get everything processed, get it in the barn, and then everybody can move on. One fair brought it to us, and we think it's a great idea because we keep seeing some of the fungus issues popping up with the sheep. And so some of the are looking at possibly having some clipping rigs to where they can only come in with so much cover, and possibly even not allowing certain clipping. You can do some trim up work and stuff in the fair, but not doing like a full shear on the grounds to kind of keep some of those fungus issues at bay as much as possible. And also we had one approaches to try to help cut down on confusion. They thought they could maybe write it a little clearer in their fair stuff, is on some of the tagging requirements and some of that. They wanted to spell that out as far as requirements for the animals have to come, that are required by law to be tagged and identified, that they come into the fair that way. That way it kind of spells it out a little clearer in the language y'all want to use. But that just some considerations, we're not saying you have to or not. One thing I would really encourage you to do, because we're seeing it more of it and everybody's heard me talk about this, but I would definitely be trying to look at, we're seeing this more and more. People are carrying these pet hogs around. I know I said this last year. They have them on leashes, they have them in backpacks, but that is a threat to your hogs in the barn. Most of these pigs are not tested. They are a threat from the standpoint of we do have African swine fever, not in this country yet, but could be. And there's definitely a good chance that they could be fed a meat product to where they could contract that. So I would just hate for a fair to be upset and everybody under quarantine because we allowed a pet pig to walk through the barn. And I know that's hard to regulate, but if we could just put it out there and say, hey, we really don't need these pet pigs being brought through here where we've got hogs that's been under care and has been tested and all that. So that just may be something y'all want to consider. May not necessarily need to be in your rule book, but something that y'all may want to consider for the grounds. But we're seeing that more and more. One thing, I always do my spill, but we're trying to plug in where we can. We have people and equipment available. As far as when it's validation time, doing weigh-ins, when veterinarians set up to do a bleed day for the kids and try to get more than one, we can coordinate and try to help as much as possible with that. The ones we do help with, it does seem to cut down on some confusion issues because we can go ahead and answer some tagging questions that day. We have the scanners with the electronic IDs. We can try to get that recorded, help get data in. So the fair already has their spreadsheet built to kind of know what we got and they can compare that in the fall. We do have a set of load bars and a platform. Obviously, we got a couple of them, so we can't be everywhere at once. But, if you want to do a weigh-in and do some of those activities, we'll be happy to loan it to you. We have scanners that we can loan. If you don't want us there, we can show you how to use it and y'all can use that. Because I know a lot of people are using that to try to work with their FairWorks program. We can't get it directly in there, but we can get very close. So that's just some things that I bring up every year, but we do have that available. And of course, we do still have the free tags available for replacement cattle. So if you want to reach out to us, we can get that. If we can work with your veterinarian, if they need some vaccination tags or whatever, We can get those free of charge at this time through USDA. So just let us know. And like I said, especially, we'd be happy to work with the veterinarians or whoever you need us to work with to make that the best possible. But that's really all I have right now, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. We got one question.
Blake, and I don't know, this is not directly related, but it's has to do with show cattle, and it may be a question. I understand that we have exhibitors that traditionally had gone to Texas jackpot shows, and now they are not allowing them to do that. And I asked, even with a health certificate, and they said, well, they're not requiring health certificates on their Texas cattle, and they don't have anybody there to check them, so they're not letting Arkansas people come to some of the Texas jackpots. You all heard any? Had a tech this morning from an exhibitor that said they were not being allowed to go to Texas jackpot shows. And I understand they would need a health certificate, but they didn't have anybody to check them, so they're not letting them come.
Right. Well, unless it's an isolated case, I've not heard that because actually past year, somebody had said that they were getting pretty frequently in Texas now, but I think that was on hogs, not cattle. But
Texas said they didn't have the manpower. So, I mean, it's a Texas issue. It's not an Arkansas
Right.
issue, but I don't know that we can do anything about that.
no, but that's new, but we can definitely look into that.
Yeah, I hear you, because we have our exhibition rule. Every state has their exhibition rules and regs and entry regs and requirements. But any exhibitor can go above our rules. And so even versus the state of Texas, that's not theirs to regulate. If the exhibitor says we want the RFID tags, then you have to have those. So the exhibitors can go above, takes it out of state regulation and puts it into the exhibitors. So that's where the action would have to be taken at that level. So the states couldn't make them let you in based on that. That's a good start. They've got a new state veterinarian down now, and we could reach out to him and definitely says, hey, what's the deal? Do our cattle smell bad or something? Yeah. Sure. Correct. Because you could set a standard that, okay, well, we're not taking Texas cattle then. I don't want to get into that tit for tat thing going on, but well, that's then, I'd be glad to reach out to Texas Animal Health and talk to those. And usually it's better to get to the veterinary medical officer in that region that says, hey, help me out, help me understand why you won't let us in there. We've got a CVI, we'll do any testing you want us to do, but it's for the kids. We can play that angle, but do you have my number? I got a card for you. Get with me and we'll kind of work our way through that. But that's just to let you know, we have our rules is this, and any of those exhibitors, not to repeat myself, make that clear, is that they can go above that, and we can't make them do that, but we can sure have a conversation with them.
Feed inspection for, Mr. Tree.
So I'm Tillman Treat. I'm a inspector and a compliance investigator for the meat inspection program. Dan Douglas, who was the director of the program, retired at the end of last month. So since coming back from the new year, I've been trying to not only fulfill all of my compliance and inspection duties, but also try to take care of all the void that's been left from him retiring and, enjoying his life now in Northwest Arkansas. So anyway, with that having been said, I'm glad to say that myself and Dylan, the other inspector and compliance investigator, have finally finished all of our USDA training with respect to compliance. That was a class that was entitled SIM. It has to do with going into different firms that handle meat products and how we conduct investigations. So beyond that, of course, I'm sure as the commissioners are well aware, we had 4 different facilities that entered under a grant of inspection with our program over the last year. Of course, Arkansas State University was the first one in Jonesboro. Of course, they are strictly an educational facility. We quickly after that had Jayco down in Hope. Toward the end of the year, we had Ferguson's Meat Packing in Atkins, and they began producing under inspection in December. Then we also had Williams Baptist University in Walnut Ridge, which is an educational facility, but they also do a work study program for their students. And they're also a small business, so that are trying to turn a profit. So we've reached out with them and they have got a hold of us and scheduled to start operating under inspection the 19th of this month. Then last week, got in contact with McKeever's out of Monticello. They're a wholesale, retail, and custom exempt facility, but they had turned in most everything in order to get the grant of inspection throughout the year last year. But I ended up reaching out to them and was able to answer some questions for them. And anyway, we ended up on Monday, we were able to give them the grant of inspection. And actually they contacted me yesterday and they have scheduled their first day of inspected slaughter for next week. So they got their grant and they're getting busy with it. So then the folks out at Taylor's Ranch and Custom Meats in Ozark had reached out wanting to know what they needed to do to get their grant of inspection. We let them know if they need to fill out the application and how that whole process works. And I ended up going and seeing them on Tuesday. And they actually ended up contacting me again yesterday with more questions about getting their HACCP and their SSOPs all filled out. So they're actually working on them. And I've got a pretty good feeling we'll have our 6th firm entering under inspection. That being said, the last half, the last quarter of last year, inspection was pretty slow for us, but that was completely because of hunting season. Most of these firms, they make so much money processing wild game that they can't afford to not do it. So, which it kind of worked out in our favor. It gave me, Dylan, the opportunity to go through that training with USDA and everything. But even with it being a little bit slow last month, we still were there for the processing of 11,853 pounds of beef and 1,806 pounds of pork that were all able to enter into commerce within the state. And then also with that, this being the beginning of a new year, that means we have to start doing our review of custom exempt facilities once again. So with that being said, Dylan and myself are going to get started on that now. We're not going to wait on it, but with the increase of inspected facilities and the increase of inspection duties that we have, it's going to take us a little while to get them worked through. So we're not going to waste any time with it. We're going to get started on them now. So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions or anything.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank y'all.
NPIP, Kevin?
All right. Good morning. This is the MPIP report. You can see our list of numbers there. Nothing really out of the ordinary. I mean, if there's any specific questions on those numbers, feel free to ask. So I'll go ahead and get into the MPIP report. So over the last quarter, I was able to complete, company inspections, 7 company inspections, 2 processing plant inspections. We completed 7 hatchery inspections that included myself and our LSIs. For our commercial table egg companies, completed 5 company inspections. I completed 3 biosecurity audits and 1 NPIP lab audit. Back in November, all the NPIP labs in the state submitted documentation to the national office for the 2023 service review. Have not heard anything back from the national office. Obviously, there's quite a few NPIP labs throughout the United States. So that's a lot of paperwork to go through. So we'll look to see if they have any additional requirements from us. Moving on, Dr. Niles and Blake have mentioned the high path avian influenza response that the Department of Agriculture, along with federal partners, responded to. As Dr. Niles mentioned, we had 4 commercial entities, Madison, Carroll, 1 in Madison, 2 in Carroll County, 1 in Johnson County, and then our backyard poultry flock in Scott County. My particular role in that was we were set up at the fairgrounds in those counties. We really appreciate those folks allowing us to use the facilities there to set up as a sample depot for our commercial companies to drop off samples for us to deliver to the NPIP, or I'm sorry, the Nolan laboratories in the state. We leaned heavily on the lab in Fayetteville this time as a branch lab. They were able to take care of Madison 02, Carroll 01, and Carroll 02. The samples from Johnson 01 went to the lab in Little Rock. So for that, like I said, we would do decontamination of the samples before we sent them to the lab. That way we didn't infect our lab or potentially infect our lab with avian influenza. We also leaned on our plant industry folks as couriers. So we're very thankful for them for delivering those samples. Just to give you an idea on the number of samples. So for Madison 02, we collected 1,339 samples. And then that closed, the control area on that one closed the Friday after Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, the following Monday, we had Carroll 01 pop up. So Carroll 01 and Carroll 02, they kind of overlapped. For those 2, we collected 1,474 samples for testing for movement and surveillance. Dr. Moffitt, who was introduced earlier, he was over the Johnson 01. I don't have those numbers there. But you can see there on the dates for release, like I said, the Friday after Thanksgiving for Madison 02, the day before Christmas Eve for Carroll 01, the 28th of December for Johnson 01, and the 29th of December for Carroll 02. Scott 01 remains under quarantine at this time. Just an update on the sub-party and hatchery inspections. Unfortunately, due to a high path avian influenza, we did have to put a pause on those. Hopefully, we will be able to get those started back up in the weeks. As it stands for 2023, we were able to get 20 of our 23 hatcheries inspected. And then interest in our subpart E, our small flock section for NPI last quarter. We currently have 126 participants in the program. I am happy to announce that about middle of the month of December, received word that Florum typhoid antigen is available. Our office was able to acquire 14 mil bottles. Those are there's quite an expiration date on that one, so it extends into July of 2025. I did check some of the out-of-state feed stores. They do have them on their website as available at this time. So if you need a bottle, it's probably best to try to get a hold of some of them and make sure that you have those available. We were able to help out some of the fairs this past fair season and lend some bottles out and get through the testing for fairs. Just a quick update on avian influenza. As of yesterday, the last detection was on the 8th. There's 1,068 confirmed flocks. That's 456 commercial, 612 backyard. Still, 47 states have been affected by high path avian influenza since the beginning in early 2022. Just over 81 million birds have been depopulated. There's been 8,638 detections in wild birds, 66 of which are in Arkansas. And currently, 3 surrounding states have active cases: Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas. none of which are commercial cases. And then one last thing I'd like to add, I think everybody's heard this, the disease line that we have set up for folks to call in, report disease in poultry. That number is 501-823-1746. It's not we don't actively answer it, but you can leave a voicemail. It will go out and through email. Somebody will contact you to collect information on your flock and what you're seeing in your flock. We will pass it up to Dr. Niles. They'll make a determination on whether we need to come collect samples. Typically, you will hear back from an LSI if samples are needed to be collected to set up a schedule to come out and collect those samples. If you have any fresh head, we ask that you just make sure you keep those cool, double bag them, put them in a cooler with some ice packs. Will then come and collect those collect those birds, take them back to the laboratory. And that's my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Moving now into our veterinary medical examining committee, Dr. Hewitt.
Good morning. This is the first report at the commission meeting from the veterinary examining committee. So there's quite a few things that we're gonna go over. All of the details are in the commissioner's packets, and I'm gonna kind of hit some highlights, and then we'll need some, we need to make some motions for voting on the recommendations. I'll first say that the committee members, Dr. Rob Connor, myself, Dr. Sarah Klein, Dr. Mike Pallone, who's here, Dr. Sarah Throne, and Dr. Kate Williams. Sarah's here as well. So, the first thing that we discussed, is that there were 8 corporate practice applications presented to the committee for review. And our recommendations is that we accept all those certifications, so that we need a motion on that from the committee.
Also moved. Motion been made by Bruce Mallett. Here's second by Sarah Throne. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted. All right.
Secondly, there were 31 names submitted for reciprocal licensure, and the committee voted to accept all these 31 names, and we need a motion for this recommendation.
We hear a motion. So moved by Sarah Throne. Here's a second. Dr. Plum. Dr. Plum with the second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted. Motion carried.
We had one application for licensure in the state, and the committee recommended that licensure be allowed by licensure. Do what?
By examination.
I'm sorry, by examination. Yes, I can't read. So we need a motion for that.
Do we hear a motion?
I would move that we allow for licensure by examination.
Motion's been made by Dr. Throne. Do you hear a second? Second by Dr. Pallone. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right.
We had one situation where the commission, or the committee, found that denial based on disciplinary actions of one applicant, should occur in the state. So one denial, we need a motion on that.
Do we entertain a motion?
I would move that we deny the application by Dr. Kaiser on the basis of disciplinary action and suspension of his current license.
Motion's been made by Dr. Throne. Do you hear a second? Second by Bruce Mallett. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted.
Another candidate was denied licensure based on disciplinary action and failure to disclose this action on the application. We need a motion for this recommendation.
The motion. Move that recommendation be approved. Motion been made by Bruce Mallett. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Throne. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted.
We also had various complaints, 8 of which the committee reviewed, and dismissal of these complaints was recommended. So we need a motion. Details are in our packet.
Need a motion. Motion been made by Chad Chester. Here a second. Second by Sarah Throne. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted.
So there's another complaint that the committee determined that the veterinarian in a consent decree be charged with 6 hours of continuing education, 1 hour of continuing education and client communication, for a total of 7 hours of continuing education. So we need a motion on this recommendation.
Would enter into a consent decree on docket number 2022-16, Scotty versus Window, and utilize the recommendations from for continuing education.
Motion's been made by Dr. Throne. Do we hear a second? Second by Chad Chester. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted.
And the final complaint resulted in a recommendation of a consent agreement to the veterinarian that included an additional 6 hours of continued education, 1 hour of continuing education in client communication, 4 hours of continuing education in diagnostics and antimicrobial therapy. In addition to the 11 hours of extra continuing education, this practitioner has been requested to submit 3 medical records per month for 6 months that are surgical, hospitalization, or internal medicine based. We need a motion for this recommendation.
So moved by Dr. Malone. Here's a second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Throne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
None noted.
And that would be the end of the report.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hewitt. Mr. Chair. Yes, sir.
First, I want to thank the members of this committee because of the significance of it, and certainly the rest of the members of the commission are going to rely heavily upon the veterinary members. But because of the significance of what we're dealing with, I just request that we get a copy of this a little more in advance, where we can read through and study this before we're actually voting on it. And again, I very much appreciate the members of the committee. They're the ones that are going to really know, and I know I'm going to rely very heavily on their recommendations, but I don't like to look at some of this cold and have to vote on it.
Well, this is the first time, so that's point well taken.
Thank you, Senator Mallett. We'll move into general agency activities package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, commissioners. And I also extend my appreciation to the new committee. They have worked extremely hard, a lot of long hours on this, and duly noted, we'll make sure we get that out to you. So thank you. Thank you, Bruce. First, we do have a couple of things we need to cover. And I'll go ahead and do that now. We have 4 rules for review and up for discussion or motion to adopt. The first one we'll look at is the egg rule. It's the one that's got a lot of mark-throughs through it, it's red. We would have liked, got this out to you a little bit before, but we worked on this to the 9th hour last night to get this completed. The majority of this is language cleanup. This rule has been in place since 1969 with a few revisions in regards to the sales or the fees that we collect. But the majority of it has not been touched since then. And it has been a little bit complicated to read. So that's what we've done, is tried to clean this up so that it's a little easier read and it's a little easier for compliance once everybody understands how it reads. The two major changes from the law were on the very first page under retail sale of eggs. Previously, the limit to retail sales directly to producers from a retail were 200 birds. You were allowed to have 200 birds. We've increased that to 700 with an exception as long as they meet the requirements 1 through 5. That's mainly for our community's food safety concerns that we have with washed eggs, dirty eggs, cracked eggs that come in, and maintaining those important temperatures, 45 degrees. The second change, significant change due to law, will be on the second page under A.D. That is, the language was included to eggs that are sold for the purpose of direct delivery to the consumer shall deliver, maintain and maintain eggs at an ambient temperature of 45 degrees. The language before was the requirement is they had to be refrigerated. That is in a physical refrigerated unit. Today, we have many delivery or courier services that deliver from the retail directly to the consumer's home. There was no way that they could have a unit in their car. So what we're saying here is, as long as they maintain that 45-degree temperature during delivery and on delivery, then they're fine. The only thing that we request is that they don't put them in ice so that when the ice starts melting, that they become saturated. That would be the only other change. Like I say, the rest of it was just language cleanup. So I would take motion to either adopt or open for discussion.
Move to adopt.
Motion been made by Dr. Hewitt to adopt the egg rule. Give a second. Second by Bruce Mallett. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted.
These rules will now go before 30-day comment, and then which we will review those comments, and if there's any significant changes, those will be addressed by the commission later on. All right. Secondly, and we can batch these or we can do these individually. These are the veterinary technician and veterinarian practice rules. One is the technician rule. The other will be the certification fees collected, as well as the continuing education requirements. These rules have been reviewed by the Veterinarian Medical Examination Committee, approved. There was a couple of changes during the meeting that were discussed, but the committee has full approval and recommends adoption of these rules.
We have common consent to bundle them all together.
So moved.
Okay. All right. We'll entertain a motion to approve all 3 rules. Chad Chester makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Dr. Bill Hewitt. To approve the rules. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None observed.
Okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate that. We'll continue on with this year's activities, last quarter's activity. It's been a very interesting year. We've had a tough year. I want to publicly commend the staff the managers that are here for us today through AI, as well as our field staff. They did a tremendous job. Many of those were away from their families for weeks at a time. But they buckled in and got this thing done. AI is an extremely serious issue to the state. We've had more cases this year than the state has ever had. These cases have been handled extremely well, and we're now in a point where we're released from those zones. We did have a rule that expanded those zones, that anyone within 25 miles of a control area were not allowed to move and had to maintain birds under cover. That has since then been released, so sales and movement can resume at this point. We are asking, though, that everyone be mindful that there are still bird activities, wild bird activities. The migration will start again this spring. So just be mindful that we've had a pretty tough year this year in regards to the AI and nationwide. So be mindful of that and protect your own backyard flocks. The Beef Council had met earlier this quarter. Our next meeting will be into this month or into February on the 27th. We have two major meetings that we'll be attending this year. The first meeting will be the Cattle Con in Orlando. That's from January 29th to February 1st or February 3rd. That's when the committees will get together, vote on issues, vote on concerns, and promotion items for the nation as well as each individual state. The next meeting will be in this summer in Orlando, and everything's going pretty well. So we have established some inspectors that are going to assist us with the program at local areas in those booths. So we appreciate everybody's volunteering to help with that. Reg 5, a new program that was part of the 23 session review, and that was removed from ADEQ and moved over to the Department of Ag. So we're working on that rule currently. We would put an advisory committee together. We met yesterday. There are several issues that we're going to address. So this is going to be a little bit longer process than we intended, but we want to make sure this is right. We have a lot of issues that we have to address, as well as the permitting system, how we're going to inspect, how we're going to enforce, and keep compliance. The poultry feeding operation registration was also moved to the department. That program started January 1st. It was a program where producers were required to go to the conservation district offices and report their information. That now is online and seems to be going pretty smoothly. The veterinarian committee will meet again in a couple of weeks on the 23rd to work on some of the remaining backlog that we had during the transferring over to the Livestock and Poultry Commission. So they're going to try to address as many of those as we can. And then we'll probably need to meet again. We can probably do it online and then go through, approve those recommendations from the committee. And then just one addition to Tillman's report. He did a good job. We are gaining processing plants. We do have 4 established with 1 coming online, and we have several that are interested in getting into the program. So we're now reviewing some of those SSOP plans and HACCP plans and encouraging as many as can to get online. So that is going very well. It was a slower start, but now things are kind of picking up just a little bit. Sales were off, like Tillman had noted, through deer season. Cattle sales really didn't help that. With anytime you have an increase in a good cattle market, it's makes a little bit more sense to sell them at a market as opposed to feeding them out and selling and marketing those. But that will get stable as we go on through the year. Mr. Chairman, that will conclude my report unless there's questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have any other old business that we need to bring forward before the commission? Any new business that we need to bring forward? I guess we need to move in for our next commission meeting date. What date do you have? for that. April.
That'll be pretty open. The next one, after that will be probably during the cattlemen's meeting. But this one will be a free one, so y'all just, whenever y'all are open for April.
I have a conflict on the 25th of April.
What about the 11th?
The 11th is, I believe, is available for me. April the 11th. How does that appear? Anybody have any conflicts? Okay, we'll tentatively plan for is it the April 11th or April 12th? We'll look at those and we'll get. Okay. Is that fine? Okay, we'll shoot for April the 11th.
Okay, one of the things, if you don't mind, we'll look at that, with the department taking on and absorbing so many boards and commissions. We basically have one room. So we need to look and make sure there's not a conflict with that. And then, if there is, we'll let you know.
All right.
If you don't mind, can I add
Go
one more
ahead.
thing? I forgot. I'm sorry. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the new Executive Vice President for the Arkansas Cattlemen's Association, Michelle Buffton. If Michelle would like to, do you want to speak for a moment or kind of introduce yourself?
Good morning. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity. As Patrick said, my name is Michelle Buffkin Horton, and I am the new Executive Vice President for the Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. I started a week ago, and so I'm excited to hit the ground running and to work with everyone here to better the industry in Arkansas. If we can help you in any way at the Cattlemen's Association, please let me know. I would love to work with y'all and happy to be here. I'll be here afterwards if y'all want to chat and introduce yourselves. Excited to be back. Thank you.
Glad to have you, Michelle. Thank you. Any other further business to bring before the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dr. Hewitt. So here, second by Bruce Mallett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And ladies. Thank you. Ms. Lynn.
Recording stopped.